Age of Empires 4. An historic RTS with base building, economy, real historic battles, and frantic multiplayer. But should you buy it right now? This video will answer all of your questions, starting with a 60-second, too long didn't read overview of the game, so you can tap out early if it doesn't appeal to you. Then we'll see what it's like to actually play it, by packing in as much detail about the gameplay as humanly possible, before looking at the different types of players this game might appeal to, as well as analysing a variety of other factors to help you decide whether this game is worth your time and money today. There are epic single-player campaigns, from the Norman conquest to the Mongols invading China, alongside a bucket load of skirmish modes for those who enjoy playing with or against the AI, friends or strangers online in sweaty face-offs. However you choose to play, you must build up your base and economy, scouting the map, before training and upgrading your army to ultimately clash with your adversary in pitched battles, raids, or grand sieges of mighty fortresses. Production value is off the scale, with beautifully narrated history lessons that teach you about medieval warfare between missions and show you the real locations of the battles you are about to partake in. Overall, the immersion is rather impressive, albeit offset slightly by the cartoony look of the units. So if you like the sound of a solid RTS formula, with great big walls and trebuchets, a bunch of asymmetric civilizations to choose from, and enough production value to make Avatar look like a 3-year-old's finger painting, Age of Empires 4 might be your cup of tea. If that hasn't put you off, then grab a drink and get comfortable as we look through the detail of what you actually do in and what it's like to play Age of Empires 4. The base game of Age of Empires 4 contains 4 historic campaigns with 8 to 10 missions in each. We have the Norman conquest of England, which also acts as a tutorial. There's the rise of Moscow, the 100 Years' War between the French and the English, and we have the Mongol Empire ravaging both Europe and Asia. In addition, there are detailed videos between each mission explaining the backstory to each battle, not only explaining that these events really happened, but including videos of the actual locations you'll be fighting in, as well as explanations of medieval warfare, both the tactics and the weaponry. Even specific tactics actually used in these battles are woven into the gameplay by giving you the relevant units or giving units a specific ability to help you fight the battle in the way it was actually fought. The attention to detail in the single-player campaigns is nothing short of staggering. This game could genuinely be used to teach kids history in school, or in my case, it allows a middle-aged man to relive his old school days playing Age of Empires 1 with and against his friends. Man, I feel old. If a single-player campaign isn't your thing, there are plenty of skirmish options for you to choose from. We'll go into greater detail in a moment, but broadly, you can play with up to 7 AI as 4v4 or 1v1v1v1v1v1v1, or anything in between. Once you know who's playing, there are a variety of different game modes such as Nomad, where you start with a handful of villagers but no buildings at all. You can play with a chaotic climate, which gives random effects, which change with the seasons as you play, such as increased movement speed. There is of course the standard setup with a town centre already established, and a few others too. Once your game has started, it will broadly be the same as previous iterations of this franchise. However, there are a few key differences when playing a typical game of Age of Empires 4, so let's cover those as well as the basics for those that are new to the franchise. You can pick and choose multiple victory conditions. Obviously, you can just destroy everyone, but also you can specifically destroy enemy landmarks, more on those later. You can also control holy sites to win. You can construct and defend a wonder, or even defeat enemy monarchs, as in you start a game with a monarch unit that you need to keep alive. You can play with just one of these active, or turn them all on if you'd prefer utter carnage. The economy in Age of Empires 4 is just as important as your military prowess. There are 4 resources for you to produce. Food is used to create new units. Wood is used to construct buildings. Gold is used to upgrade things, and stone is used to create thick walls and castles. That's an oversimplification, but the point is all 4 are absolutely vital, though the importance of each can ebb and flow throughout a match, and of course there is a market for you to buy and sell resources for gold. This system may sound simple, and it is easy to pick up in the first instance, but when you consider there are multiple different ways to produce these resources, and different civilizations produce these resources in different ways, we're very much in the realms of easy to learn, but difficult to master. Once your economy is up and running, and you've constructed your first set of buildings, you will soon want to advance through the ages to unlock stronger upgrades and units. Age of Empires 4 has 4 ages: the Dark Age, the Feudal Age, the Castle Age, and the Imperial Age. You'll need a chunk of resources to advance to the next age, but more importantly than that, you'll need to have your villagers construct a landmark, such as a cathedral. These landmarks take some time to construct and often provide you with bonuses, or the option to create a special type of unit. However, you will have a choice of landmarks to construct, so you'll need to choose carefully to ensure your choice complements your playstyle and your future plans. Your first chunk of units will be villagers, used to gather resources and construct buildings. You'll need to turbocharge your food production and construct as many workers as you can as quickly as possible to stand a chance of surviving your match. You can also start with a scout unit to start exploring the map and collecting sheep to bring back to your village to provide food. Beyond that, you'll soon create an array of military units. The exact names will vary between civilizations, but broadly, you are dealing with spearmen, men-at-arms, archers, crossbowmen, scouts, horsemen, and knights. Within those lot are some basic counters, such as spearmen being strong against cavalry, for example. And then you have some exciting siege units, such as the Springold and the Mangonel, which are great against infantry, or the mighty Trebuchet, which is devastating against walls and castles. As with most of this game, all of this is theoretically easy to learn, but it becomes more complex once you add in the variety between different civilizations. The game released with 8 civilizations, but that soon increased by 2 for free, and there are others available via paid-for DLC, as well as variant civilizations, such as the House of Lancaster being a variant on the English. The key point for you to know is that each civilization looks, feels, and plays differently. There are, of course, similarities, but the differences are such that learning a new civilization feels genuinely different. These aren't just copy-pasted from each other, with superficial differences. The English have a longbowman, which is a more powerful archer. The Delhi Sultanate have war elephants. The Chinese have an imperial officer, who can help generate gold, or increase a building's work rate. The Mongols are my personal favourite, as they can pack up each of their buildings into a wagon and just move them across the map wherever they like. I think the variety in these civilizations is underrated, and provides serious replayability in this game. And considering how asymmetric civilizations can be a nightmare in RTS games in terms of balance, I think they've balanced them rather well. Maps are pretty straightforward in Age of Empires 4. There are a lot of them. Every single one I tried deserved a place in the lineup, plus you can randomly generate them too. There's not much to say regarding maps, as they've simply done a solid job on them. The looks of Age of Empires 4 are a mixed bag. On the one hand, the game looks gorgeous. RTS games don't look this good, generally, so it's great to see the detail of buildings and the environment, and especially buildings crumbling under fire from heavy siege equipment. However, one of the main gripes against the game is very similar to that of Company of Heroes 3. The units look cartoony, and the scaling is all wrong. Now, that might not bother you a bit. It only bothers me slightly, but for those that are interested in the historic accuracy side of things, I know it might bother you a lot, so thought it worth mentioning. Otherwise, the game looks great, especially for an RTS, and that's great to see. The sound design is where this game really turns it up to 11. Every aspect of the audio is phenomenal, from the sound of hooves as horses charge, the mighty trebuchet launching a destructive rock, and even the voices of your people acknowledging your orders have a slight echo to them, which is perfect, given you are some sort of floating god. The music is also sublime, and all of this adds up to serious levels of immersion that other games could only hope to achieve. Well done to the guy that did the audio. A quick note to say that playing this game with a controller instead of a mouse and keyboard is genuinely an option. It works well, and there's a separate tutorial to teach you how to do it. Given RTS games aren't known for working well with a controller, I can confirm it's entirely viable. Competitive players will likely want to stick with a mouse and keyboard to give them an edge, but otherwise, a controller works surprisingly well. Hopefully by now, you have an idea of what it's like to actually play Age of Empires 4. So let's address some other, more practical considerations that might affect your purchasing decision. I found Age of Empires 4 to be the definition of easy to learn, difficult to master. The game explains how to play supremely well, with introductory missions where you learn the detail while playing through the campaign. I absolutely love the challenges which time how quickly you can get your economy set up, as well as other areas of the game to help you learn the most important elements, while giving you a little medal if you do it fast enough. This game is great for casuals, but also those who take RTS games more seriously. You should allow an hour for some of the longer campaign missions and also for a skirmish match. So as long as you have an hour, you can play this game. However, I found myself immersed for way more than 1 hour in most of my playthroughs. For me, it was utterly absorbing. Age of Empires 4 should absolutely be played with friends. It's so easy to do, and given the AI options, it's just an absolute blast. Age of Empires 4 is on sale about once per month with a 60% discount, so there's really never any reason to pay full price. There are 2 DLCs out already, giving us new civilizations, new units, and new historic campaigns, with another on the way in November 2025. Although the DLCs aren't the highlight of this game, each one offers a little bit of content to suit everyone, and they're reasonably well rated, so if the game does get its claws into you, you definitely have options. So with all of that said, is Age of Empires 4 right for you today? As always, it depends who you are and what you're into. To address the war elephant in the room head on, if you're a die-hard Age of Empires 2 fan, then no matter how good Age of Empires 4 is, it will never be good enough for you. Which is a shame, because it probably is good enough for you, but I get it. Some of our favourite games just can't be beaten. If you are a lover of history and want to experience an historic campaign, then Age of Empires 4 has so much to offer you. Unfortunately, the units do look cartoony, so you may find that off-putting, but otherwise the campaigns in this game are glorious, interesting, and educational. If you enjoy a skirmish against the AI, then you have a plethora of options to keep you busy, not only in the skirmish setup options, but especially because of the variety in the different civilizations. To me, they are this game's real strength, along with the audio design. Well done, audio guy. Then, finally, if you just want to play games with your friends and have a passing interest in RTS games, then Age of Empires 4 would be perfect. It's easy to set up, easy to pick up the gameplay, has plenty of options, and is just a blast to play with friends, especially if you're all casual and just want to have a good time. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask, or if you already own the game and have some additional information you'd like to add, please let us all know in the comments below. If you found the video useful, please leave a like for the algorithm gods, and if you enjoy RTS games, grand strategy, military shooters, or simply this style of review, consider subscribing for more content, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.